Terry, you had a note out last week that really struck me, and that you only see a 60% chance that Powell gets reconfirmed. That is definitely out of consensus. What's behind your call?
Well, a couple of things, Alex. One is simply that this is one of these rare hearings where the result really isn't baked today. And the reason for that is that, Powell, unusually for the Biden administration, is relying on a coalition of Republicans plus centrist Democrats to be confirmed. So some of the progressives, like Warren, are already opposed. Others, like Chairman Brown, I think, frankly, are a little bit on the fence for a variety of reasons. But, you've got that kind of coalition, and Republicans could yet decide that inflation politics means that they've got to attack one of the architects of inflation policy, which would be Chair Powell. Right now, I think they probably don't do that, thus my 60%, but I think it's dicier than anybody appreciates. Secondly, what I would urge markets to look at is not just Powell or not Powell, but you've now got a situation where 5 out of the 7 governors are either in confirmation, Powell and Brainerd, or haven't even been nominated yet. And so, who's making this policy is going to contribute to policy choppiness at the Fed, I think.
In terms of the other aspects that could affect this hearing, Terry, one of them is obviously surrounding ethics and what has been happening at the Fed. We've had the trading scandal. Now, maybe Congress needs to look in the mirror at this kind of issue as well. But nevertheless, how big a factor is that going to be?
I think it's a small factor for Powell, frankly. Clarida has removed himself. He was going to be gone by the end of the month anyway. Powell's already started to talk about reforms, and frankly, he can talk about what he's done, what they've already done, and what he intends to do a little bit proactively. And I think take that taint off the table. So I think that's good for him, frankly.
So, Terry, what I was struck with on Friday when President Biden spoke after the jobs report is he talked about how inflation is the Fed's thing. Like the Fed's going to control inflation, so totally laying that in some ways at Powell's feet. If Powell stumbles today, or if there's a little bit of pushback here, will President Biden have his back?
President Biden probably has his back. The question is really whether having his back means anything, frankly. My contention for some time, and I think it's just gotten more obvious, is that this president doesn't have very much political capital to spend, not a lot of persuasive power. And, if he can't get everybody over the hump on Build Back Better, he certainly doesn't have a lot of chits to spend on getting Powell through, particularly when a lot of his coalition in the Senate is progressives. So, if he runs into trouble somehow, there's going to be some difficulty with Powell. And I think there's probably some difficulty with some of the more progressive governors that we have yet to see as well. I remind people that Senator Manchin is very concerned about inflation. And, will Manchin vote for, and Sinema and other centrists vote for a whole bunch of people that look like they're going to be more dovish and therefore potentially more inflationary? I think we got a long way to go here on the Fed nominations.
Terry, why is your view is an outlier here? Everybody else is dead certain that Powell gets reconfirmed. Why the gap? What is it that they're seeing that you're not?
Boy, I don't know what they're seeing, but what I'm seeing is a political situation surrounding the Fed. And the Fed, of course, is a creature of Congress constitutionally. They get to make their individual decisions independently, but they operate under congressional authority. What I see as a Congress here that is, particularly on the Republican side, is gearing up to make inflation one of the main issues of the midterms. And there is a potential here for them to decide that Powell's part of the problem instead of part of the solution. Now, on the other side of that bet, and as I say, I'm 60%. I'm more likely that Powell gets confirmed than not. But on the other side of that bet, they could be more strong for Powell, principally because they're concerned about all the other dovish progressives coming down the pike. That probably helps Powell, frankly. But the decision has not been made on the Republican side yet, and that's really what I emphasize.
Do you feel like the White House is doing enough and saying the right things to counter inflation? I mean, we could even see a 7 handle tomorrow for the CPI. It's no surprise that it feels like Powell speaking before that number comes out. It feels like Lyle Brainerd on Thursday has the tougher job. If he's looking to nominate more progressives to the Fed, et cetera, not letting go in any way of Build Back Better, like, are we at risk here that the White House is misreading inflation?
I think we're, as far as messaging goes, I think the White House has yet to find its feet. It was, generally second half of calendar 21. It was it tried to convince people on a lot of levels, on infrastructure, on supply chain, on Corona, that its solutions were working and deserved credit. When things got a little bit more complicated, what you've seen is a push off. What you've seen is now there's no federal solution for Corona. There's inflation is the Fed's problem to solve. A lot of the rest of it. The muddled messaging is part of it here, but the muddled messaging comes from lack of policy certainty, and frankly, because they haven't made up their mind whether what they want to do is deal with their progressives or deal with a broader coalition. They've made a mess of financial services policy right down the line to date, whether it be Omarova having to withdraw at the OCC, whether it be the FTC on antitrust, whether it be the FDIC problems right now in banking, where there's a fight about who gets to run the agency in essence.
Yep.
All of that helps Powell, frankly, because he's a little steadier on the tiller, a lot steadier on the tiller. He's a known quantity. But the White House hasn't made up his mind on a lot of this stuff, and it's going to need to, because the public perception already is that that the Biden administration is to blame for a lot of this stuff somehow, somewhere, and it's going to need to right the ship pretty soon.